After last night's debate, Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders is heading to Nevada. He's going to hold 3 rallies while he's there, one of which is happening at the University of Nevada. Senator Sanders does well with young voters, according to the latest Chegg and College Pulse survey. The majority of college students, 31%, said they want to see Bernie Sanders as their nominee. He's followed by Senator Elizabeth Warren and Vice President Joe Biden. When asked who won the debates, Democratic students say that Warren and Sanders came out on top. Independents said Yang and Sanders were the winners.
Joining us to break this all down is co-founder and CEO of College Pulse, Terren Klein. He joins us via Skype. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, we're glad to have you here, Terren. So first of all, let's get this snap poll that you guys did right after the debate. You surveyed college students in that hour. We have those results. Were you surprised by the debate results? What did you think? And especially that divide and Andrew Yang winning amongst independents.
Right. Before we jump into the snap data results, I just want to give some context into the research that we're doing with Chegg. So we teamed up with Chegg, a student learning platform, we being College Pulse. We are a survey research and analytics company. And every week, we're surveying 1,500 college students. And we're tracking their support of different candidates in the Democratic primary, and as well as doing deep dive insights into what candidates can do to win the college student vote. And we decided to partner on this research together because there are 20 million college students enrolled in U.S. colleges and universities. And to put that into context, merely 2,500 votes separated the 2 major party candidates in New Hampshire.
Right.
And we wanted to give insight into what issues these students care about and how different candidates can actually win this election by understanding the issues. So last night after the debate, we polled 1,500 students, and what we learned is that the candidate that really speaks to students is Bernie Sanders with over 31% of the vote. And that is something that we have seen him leading in the past since we began the tracker in March, but his lead has continued to grow and has especially grown in the past week. Elizabeth Warren was identified as one of the winners of the debates, strong debate performance among students who watched the debate. But among all students, Bernie Sanders still remains in the lead.
That's interesting. I was surprised to see that amongst Democratic students that Elizabeth Warren beat Bernie Sanders. Is that something that's been consistent with the data and the tracking that you've done?
Right. So the Elizabeth Warren, when you look at strong Democratic students, which is also the students that are more likely to tune into the debates, she actually leads Bernie Sanders 33% to 32%. But it's when you introduce Democratic-leaning and independent-leaning college students, it's where you see Elizabeth Warren struggling. So when you look at the Democratic electorate overall, Bernie is in the lead, but Elizabeth Warren really speaks to the strong Democrats.
Yeah. Do you see a lot of overlap in support? Are you able to dig down into the data and see whether or not people who support Sanders would also be willing to support Warren, or vice versa if one of them starts to catch fire, or if there's actually more similarity between all 3 of them, or do they distinguish between Biden on one hand and Warren Sanders on the other?
Right. So if one question that we've dug into is understanding whatever candidate wins the 2020 election, the 2020 primary, would you vote for them in the Democratic Party? We found that 95% of Democratic college students say they are going to vote in the general electorate for the Democratic nominee, whether it's Warren, Sanders, any of the others. But what's interesting and what separates this age group and this demographic from other age groups is that electability is not as important to them. What's really important to them is the issues. And so more than half of Democratic college students are saying that a candidate's stance on issues is more important than their ability to beat Donald Trump.
That's particularly interesting, is that it's the stance on the issues. That's kind of a reverse that we see from the older generation. So you also are taking quite a bit of tracker data and you're looking at where things are trending. What exactly are these issues that animate most of the college students? Is it student debt, as what some would expect? Is it healthcare? What are you taking a look at?
So the top issues for Democratic college students, the overwhelming top issue is the environment at 40%. followed by inequality at 17%, reproductive health at 9%. And these are issues that last night in the debate did not get as much airtime as some other issues we saw. But there's also specific moments that, besides these main issues, where candidates have the opportunity to speak to college students. For instance, looking at what caused Bernie Sanders' rise in the past 2 weeks in our tracker. That's something we're looking into right now. But if you look at his actions the past 2 weeks, he came out in support of California's Fair Play to Pay Act, giving college students, athletes, the ability to be paid for their work.
Yeah.
And that's an issue that an overwhelming majority of college students support, as well as he's been engaging in grassroots campaign tailgate tour, going on college campuses and speaking to them. So there are core issues that you can speak to win over the college population, but their environment tends to be a stable one. But there's also moments in time where we've seen candidates gain support by appealing to some other college student-focused issues.
Terren, do you have a sense of how actively they're going to actually participate in the primary relative to other campaigns in the past?
Yes. So I made the mistake after last time I was on here a month ago, and I looked at the YouTube comments, and that was a question that came up quite a lot. This is all good, but are college students actually going to vote? And the data supports that they are. So this demographic has seen the largest increase of any other age group in the U.S. In increase in voter turnout. So from 2014 to 2018 in the midterm elections, we saw an increase of over 80%. 60% of students say that this election is more important to them than any other past election. And so what we expect to see is college students, given their sheer quantity, 20 million college students, as well as their likelihood to vote, to play a pivotal role in this election. And that's really at the core of what we decided to do our research with Chegg. Is this is a demographic that's going to have a major influence in the election, and right now no one has a clear understanding of where they stand, and that's where we.
Well, Terren, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your analysis. We're going to have you back. All right, thanks a lot.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Next on Rising, our friend Cenk Uygur from the Young Turks was also at last night's debate.
He shared his impressions with us next.